Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going deep with Krispel.
Krispel?
Yeah, his track, Spiritual Healing.
Okay.
You guys sent in the official music video,
Uh-huh.
and I gotta say, this one really got me thinking, I mean, we all know Krispel. He's got that raw, street smart style,
Right.
but this one hints at something a little bit more.
Yeah, a little deeper for sure.
Yeah, it's deeper. So let's jump in and see if we can figure out what kind of spiritual healing he's actually talking about.
Yeah, one of the first things that struck me was just how brutally honest he is right from the start. Like, he
Yeah.
keeps repeating that line, why the fuck I gotta be so brutally honest? It's like he's wrestling with this force inside him.
I think he can't help himself, right?
Exactly.
Almost like it's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he says, honesty is part of my DNA. Like, it's just who he is.
Yeah, that really resonates with me because you can feel that authenticity in his music.
Absolutely. It's like you're getting the unfiltered truth straight from his soul.
Right. And he doesn't let you forget that this is more than just a song, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
He comes right out and says, this ain't music, this is spiritual healing.
Right.
So I guess the question is, what is this spiritual healing that he's talking about?
Well, I think it's definitely more than your typical, feel-good self-help stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a cliche.
No, not at all. It's much more raw, much more real.
Well, he does talk about being open to blessings.
Right. He does?
But is that really all there is to it? Just like waiting around for good things to happen?
I don't think so. I think for Krispel, openness is more about creating space for change, for growth, even if that means going through some tough times.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like he says, life isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
There's rain, there's pain. It's about acknowledging that, accepting it, and using those experiences to become stronger, to heal.
It makes me think about those lines where he talks about making the most of life while you alive, because nobody's going to be there to revive you.
Yeah.
Like, he's not sugarcoating it at all.
No, he's not. There's a real sense of urgency in his message, like time is precious.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out what you're here for and go after it with everything you've got.
It's interesting because he also talks about everybody wants something. Who's going to put in the work? And that kind of ties into what you were saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough to just want things. You got to be willing to put in the effort.
Right. So how does that relate to spiritual healing then? Is he saying that like hard work, is spiritual healing?
I think it's definitely a part of it. It's about taking control, making conscious choices.
Right.
And choosing how you react to those tough times. Remember, he talks about making mad bread instead of letting anger consume him.
Oh, I like that.
It's about channeling that energy into something positive, something that moves you forward.
So instead of just like reacting to the negativity, you're choosing to create something from it.
Absolutely. Turning that negative energy into something positive and productive.
I see. But let's go back to that idea of openness for a second. Because, okay, I get that it's about being receptive to blessings.
Yeah.
But isn't there a risk in being too open? Like, you leave yourself vulnerable, maybe even open to getting hurt.
That's a really good point. And I think for Krispel, openness isn't just about passively receiving whatever comes your way.
Oh, so it's more proactive.
It's about actively seeking connection.
Mhm.
He talks about the importance of having someone who cares, someone who makes life feel more cohesive.
Right.
Maybe true openness means having the courage to trust, to let yourself be vulnerable with the right people.
So it's not just about like opening yourself up to the universe.
Right.
It's also about actively cultivating real human connections.
Exactly. Building those bonds, those relationships that support you on your journey.
And, now that you mention it, he seems to connect this idea of connection with his financial success, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He talks about printing cash and trusting the process, almost like they're part of the same spiritual equation.
Yeah, it's like when you're aligned with your purpose, when you're living authentically, that abundance flows into all areas of your life.
So it's not just about spiritual growth in isolation. It's about creating a whole, well-rounded, fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of that line where he talks about looking in the mirror and not seeing fear. That image of a chip in my brain just coding away.
I love that line.
It's such a cool metaphor. It's like he's programmed for success because he's conquered that fear.
So he's not letting fear hold him back.
Not at all. He's focused on his goals, on creating something meaningful with his life. And that, in a way, brings us back to spiritual healing.
Full circle.
Full circle. It's about aligning your actions with your values, facing your fears, and constantly pushing yourself to grow.
So if we had to sum it all up for our listeners today, it seems like Krispel's spiritual healing It's more than just a catchy track.
Yeah.
It's really like a blueprint for a life that's fulfilling,
Yeah.
built on being honest with yourself, putting in the work, and those genuine human connections.
Yeah, and I love that he's not giving us all the answers,
Right.
but he is making us think, what does spiritual healing mean for each of us?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. It sparks that conversation. It challenges us to look inward and find our own path.
Exactly. And, it makes you wonder, could listening to music like this, with this kind of intentionality, could that be a form of spiritual healing in itself?
It's something to think about, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everybody.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya!